Hi and welcome to lecture 8. In this lecture we'll talk about partials and we'll start talking about how the form partial actually works. So Rails encourages this principle of dry, don't repeat yourself. And we already know about the application.html.erb template, which enables you to maintain the layout code for the entire application in one place. We saw how this works in course 1, module 3. It would also be nice to reuse snippets of Vue code in multiple templates. So how do we do that? So, for example, the edit and the new forms, are they really that much different? It's just a form that you either creating fields from scratch or you are editing existing fields. So that's where the idea of partials comes in. Partials are similar to regular templates, but they have more refined capabilities. They are named with an underscore to signify that this is a partial, it's not a regular template. Now when they are rendered inside a template, they are rendered with just a regular name. There's no underscore there, but the underscore is just the name of a file, starts with an underscore. Render method also accepts a second argument, which is a hash of local variables that could be used inside the partial. There's also an idea of an object partial. So similar to passing a local variables, you could also just render the object. So for example, you could do render post, and this will render the app views posts underscore post partial, and it will make this post a local variable with a post name available to you inside this post.html. How? Just using the convention over configuration. It makes sense that if you're rendering a post, you should be able to have a post local variable inside the partial template. Not only that, you could also render a collection of partials. So for example, you want to say render a bunch of posts, so a collection of posts objects. That's the same thing as saying loop through each post, have a block parameter post, and then render each post partial and have a post as a local variable inside that partial. So now we are ready to talk about the underscore form partial. So as we're going to see, the first thing that it does is, well, it creates the form for a particular post variable. So in this case, it's form for the post. And if a post has any errors, it's going to display those errors on top. And it's going to pluralize, which is just a Rails helper to make something plural if it's plural, or leave something singular if it's singular, and show you how many errors there are, and actually specify the message, which in this case is just the active record .errors.full messages array, which we saw in the previous modules, and it's going to display those messages on top of your template. And then it's going to have the fields, which we'll talk about later, the actual fields for the title and the content, as well as the submit button. So to see how this works, let's go ahead and have a validation inside a post. So we're going to validate that the title of the post has to be present. We saw how to do this in the previous module. So validates title, presence is true. And then we're going to try to submit a post without a title. Well, what you're going to see is you're going to see this thing on top that says one error prohibited this post from being saved. You're going to see what the error is, and you're also going to see that it highlights the actual field that is broken using the CSS classes, and we'll touch on CSS a little bit later. So in summary, a partial is just a snippet of a reusable template, almost like a fragment, that has an underscore in its name, or a file name, so it's underscore form, for example, and it accepts parameters that are available to you when the template is rendered. Next, we'll talk about the form helpers and the layouts. So the form helper specifically, like how do you render the fields and what is the form for actually doing.